The Blue Jackets did a lot of things right last night, but couldn't get the win. We're going to talk about the loss to the New York Islanders, and we've got a special guest. We've got Hadi Kalakeche of Locked On NHL Prospects here to talk to us all about Kent Johnson. That's all coming up today on Locked On Blue Jackets.
Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to bring you news, stories, game previews, recaps, anything you can imagine about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day, despite the fact that I am recording this at 2:12 p.m. on a Saturday. I appreciate you guys. I'm still thankful for all you guys. It's no longer Thanksgiving, but I appreciate all of you. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and also over on YouTube. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button over there, then please do so. It helps me out. It helps you out. Everybody wins except the Blue Jackets, who fall 3-2 to the New York Islanders in honestly a game that I didn't have a ton of problems with on the surface. I thought the game itself was fine. Had some ups and downs. It was one of the more solid defensive efforts that the Blue Jackets have put in the past couple of weeks, which I think is a good thing. Just unfortunately couldn't get the win. It started off badly. The Blue Jackets went down 2-0. Goals from Oliver Wahlstrom and then a power play goal from JG Pajot, who has been red hot for these New York Islanders. And then the Islanders kind of shoot themselves in the foot a little bit. It's a combination of a lot of things, I think. Jake Christensen got hit by, I think, Anders Lee. So obviously, Olivier had to fight Anders Lee about it. And then after that, it just kind of didn't fall apart necessarily, but there were some penalties. So the Olivier had a fighting major and a roughing minor, and then Anders Lee got a fighting major. So the Blue Jackets killed a penalty, and then the Islanders somehow took two separate penalties on two separate players at the same time. So Adam Pelech slashed Boone Jenner, and Cal Clutterbuck interfered with Andrew Peak at the same exact time. I guess I wasn't sure what was happening. I thought Boone Jenner was going to the box for tripping at first, and then they sorted it all out, and Blue Jackets had 2 full minutes of 5-on-3, and I was fully waiting for them to do absolutely nothing with this. But ye of little faith, I guess. Yegor Chinakhov scores his 4th of the season on the power play on the 5-on-3, assists to Gaudreau and Johnson, and then 30 seconds later, Kent Johnson scores his own goal on a slap shot. Somehow. I know. I was surprised that Kent Johnson was slapping shots. Anyway, Marcus Bjork and Johnny Gaudreau again get the assist on that. So 2 assist night for Johnny Gaudreau, 2-point night for Kent Johnson. Those who continue to lead the way for the Blue Jackets. And it's tied just like that. I was blown away, frankly, by the fact that not only did the Blue Jackets score some power play goals, but also they managed to tie the game up. I was fully expecting it to just keep going south, and they didn't disappoint me on that regard for most of the game, honestly. I do want to point out something extremely funny that I believe Jeff Svoboda tweeted about. Yegor Chinakhov's wrist shot goal was at about 87 miles an hour. Kent Johnson's slapshot goal, I believe, was about 86 miles per hour. I think it was between 84 and 86 miles per hour. So Yegor Chinakhov's got a wrist shot on him. That's about all I've got to say about that. Kent Johnson tries, but I think he was as surprised as anyone that a slapshot attempt actually worked and went in. So great to see him. He's also currently As of last night, anyway, he is, I believe, tied for second in goals for rookies and tied for third, I believe, in rookie goals and second in points. He's got 11 points on the season. You love to see it. I'm super happy with Kent Johnson. We're going to talk about him in a little bit more detail later on because there are some things that I want to talk about in regards to Kent Johnson's usage that I think I've talked about at length on the podcast before, but I decided to get an outside perspective to come and try and help me understand what the best course of action is with Kent Johnson this season. In a minute, we're going to talk a little bit more about the game because lots happened. The Islanders managed to score the game-winning goal, the go-ahead goal. Brock Nelson, obviously, his 10th of the season, makes it 3-2 on the 4-on-4. Just frustrating. And then again, a weird Marcus Bjork and Casey Cizikas roughing minors. I guess I don't feel like Marcus Bjork should be taking roughing minors against Casey Cizikas, but it is what it is. We're going to talk about some underlying stats in just a minute, but first I've got to tell you about BetOnline. Because it's your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. You can get us odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer, esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. I know the big Ohio State-Michigan game is happening literally as I record, so I hope you've put some money on the Buckeyes to win that. But if you haven't, you can still do so at betonline.net. They are the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head to the website today, use your laptop or your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline is where the game starts. And where the second segment is going to start is the Blue Jackets did a lot of good things in this game. I spent a lot of the game complaining, but I kind of mostly, I think I was just annoyed by how many penalties there were. There were 8 minor penalties in this game. The Islanders scored on 1 of theirs, and the Blue Jackets scored on 2 of theirs. And then there was also the offsetting minors and the fighting majors. So lots of pims in this game, lots of hits as well, not a ton of shots. The Blue Jackets outshot the Islanders 26-24. The Islanders, I believe, actually had the edge in shot attempts. They had 30. No, excuse me. They had 40 shot attempts to the Blue Jackets 37. So a lot of missed shots here. A lot of missed shots, a lot of blocked shots. If you look at Fenwick, which is basically everything but blocked shots, it's 25-21 to the Blue Jackets. So just so weird. Such a weird, wonky game. But like I said, I liked a lot of things in it. I loved to see the power play get going. I was impressed for the most part with the defense. That first goal I thought was a little bit shaky on Eric Branson. Second goal on the power play, it is what it is. And that the Brock Nelson goal, I was mad about it, and then I rewatched it and I was like, man, this goal is so nice, I almost can't be mad about it because it was just a real good shot. Like I said, for the most part, no real issues, except for the fact that Jack Roslovic didn't win a single face-off all night. Cole Sillinger, 27%, Boone Jenner at 61, Gus Nyquist at 100. I think he only took 1 face-off, which is very funny. And then Sean Corrali also doing some heavy lifting with 59% face-off wins. The thing that is bothering me about the Blue Jackets at the minute and about this game specifically is the ice time needs. The ice time, something has to give with the ice time. Sean Corrali, Eric Robinson, and Mathieu Olivier are getting a ton of ice time. I believe Eric Robinson, Sean Corrali, I think, was 4th among forwards. The only forwards that had more ice time than him were Yegor Chinakhov, Johnny Gaudreau, Gus Nyquist, and Boone Jenner. Yeah, so he was fifth among forwards. And that was without any power play time, or he had 5 seconds of power play time for some weird reason. Admittedly, 4 minutes of that was shorthanded time. He killed a lot of penalties. So did Eric Robinson. He got 15, 23. But then on the other side of that, you've got guys like Kent Johnson, who is got almost 13 minutes of ice time, but 3.5 of those were on the power play. Cole Sillinger's getting 11 minutes and 55 seconds. It's just Trey Francis got 8 minutes of ice time last night. Like it's so frustrating to sit there and I like Sean Corelli a lot. That line is just a possession black hole. It's not good. It's not a good line. And for some reason, the Blue Jackets just love to put that line out there when they're down a goal, when they need a tying goal or whatever. Like that line was on the ice. I felt like basically every other shift, it felt like it was that fourth line out there. And I don't know what to say about it at this point. It's frustrating for me to watch. I imagine it's frustrating for some guys on the team to watch. I know that they all, they'll say the things like, oh, they love the energy that Olivier's fight gave them and they love the grind of that fourth line. But I don't know. It's just when you're not scoring goals, I don't see how putting a line that doesn't score out there helps. And then you look at guys like Kent Johnson, who had a goal and an assist last night. Sure, they were both on the power play, but a goal and an assist is a goal and an assist. He and Johnny Gaudreau had 2-point nights. Yegor Chinakhov had a 1-point night, and I believe Marcus Bjork also had a 1-point night. So when you've only got 4 players on the score sheet, and 3 of those guys are playing basically no minutes. Although, in fairness to Marcus Bjork, he played over 20 minutes. And then you get into the problems with the defense is that Eric Branson is playing 24 minutes a night. Jake Christensen is playing 8. You cannot tell me that you can't balance that ice time a little better. Admittedly, Christensen doesn't get power play or shorthanded time. Eric Branson killed almost 5 minutes of penalties. Vladislav Gavrikov killed 6.5 minutes of penalties. Fully quarter of his ice time came on the penalty kill. And I don't know. I feel like the Blue Jackets are doing a lot of good things at the minute. This is not to say that the Blue Jackets are playing badly, because I think they are playing a lot better now than they were, a while ago. But I just feel like you have to manage the load of your young players a little better. I understand the concept of they have to earn their ice time. I hate it as a concept, but I get why they think that. And it's frustrating as well to see guys like Cole Sillinger get benched or, sitting on the bench for 3, 4, 5 minutes at a time, because that's not how you get a young player out of a slump. We're going to talk about Cole Sillinger in tomorrow's episode because we've got some prospect talk coming up. And that's what we're going to talk about in just a minute, actually. I got Hadi Kalakeche, host of Locked On NHL Prospect and very smart prospect guy, to come and kind of talk about a few Blue Jackets prospects and where are they at in their development, where are they at in their career. Should we be worried about Cole Sillinger? Should we be more excited about Kent Johnson than we already are, which seems silly to say so. And so I'm gonna take it away to that conversation with Hadi in just a minute. We're going to talk all about Kent Johnson, his season so far, what we like from him, what we want to see more from him. That's all coming up in just a minute on Locked On Blue Jackets. So here at Locked On Blue Jackets, we love to talk about prospects. Blue Jackets have a lot of prospects, so it makes sense that we want to spend a bunch of time talking about them. And I thought, let's get the newest Locked On host into the game. I've got Hadi Kalakeche here of Locked On NHL Prospect, of Habs Eyes on the Prize, and of Dobber Prospect as well, I believe. So got a lot to talk about. Like I said, Blue Jackets have a lot of kids in the lineup at the minute, and there's a lot of kids waiting in the wings as well. So I guess let's start off with the big one. Let's start off with Kent Johnson, who is in his rookie season right now. Obviously, the Montreal Canadiens just played the Blue Jackets 2 nights ago. Yep. So what have you seen from Ken Johnson so far this season that you've liked?
Well, there's always been a ton of skill in this game, right? This is a player who's got elite puck skill, can stick handle in a phone booth, make his way out of trouble. What I've especially liked those, if there's been some strides in his defensive game that I didn't expect. I saw Johnson as sort of an offensive play driver. I did see some flashes in college in Michigan of some defensive play, but I didn't see anything that he could build off of. But he's managed to build up a pretty decent defensive game, and right now in his rookie season, he's showing some pretty good defensive numbers. Obviously, the 9 points, 16 games help. He's been playing a bit on the power play, and I think he's one of the best half wall players, in terms of prospects available. So, if you want a guy that you can stick on your right half wall, who's gonna, zip passes across lanes to players, or take decent shots on net, I think he's the guy. Um, the main issue with Johnson is just adding that extra layer of pace and understanding to his game, because he plays everything at a face level, and I don't see him necessarily dictate the pace of play as much as he could. And on top of that, he doesn't really sort of scan as much as he should. So those are two small elements that I would see sort of Johnson build off of and improve and grow as parts of his game. But those are usually things that come with experience, and he's in his rookie season, so I'd give him a bit of slack, especially with the World Junior Championship that he had. He really impressed a bunch of people, and scored the gold wing goal. So, it's just, there's a lot to build off of with Johnson. There's great foundations to his game, his half wall play, his stick handling, his vision, stuff like that are really sort of the building blocks for a future top six player. I'm not sure he's going to be sort of a bona fide top line player night in, night out in his career, but he's going to flirt with that for sure. And if he continues to improve and add layers to his game, he could definitely get there.
Yeah, for sure. There's been a lot of discussion in terms of Ken Johnson. Can he play center at the NHL level? Obviously, he spent most of his career in Michigan on the wing. He's been on the wing for the Blue Jackets for most of the season. And this is something I've kind of been talking about with the guys over at Locked On Canadians as well, who've kind of been having the same thing with Kirby Dach, who obviously was drafted as a center and then didn't really develop into that top line center that I think a lot of Blackhawks fans wanted him to. He's thriving on the wing with Caulfield and Suzuki. Is that the kind of trajectory that you see for Kent Johnson, or do you see could he be a center at the NHL level?
It's difficult to say, because I think that Kirby Dach's main strengths make him such a good center, and that's where he could excel at the next level. The main thing is I look at from centers is to be able to connect defensemen to wingers, and to drive transition effectively, right? So I think in Kirby Dach's case specifically, his strengths of vision and passing and skating, just that's the foundation of a center. In Kent Johnson's case, I've never been the biggest fan of his skating stride. I think he's still pretty fluid and agile. I just don't think he's got the highest top speed, and that limits him in transition. And especially his playmaking skill is really high end, but it's sort of the dual threat with him that's really good. So he shoots well as well. He's not sort of a one-trick pony offensively. So I wouldn't mind having Kent Johnson, play a career at wing, because his playing style, his strengths fit that position really well. In Kirby Dach's case, is just a situation of, if you put him on the wing, you're kind of losing a bit of what makes him great. Obviously, right now, playing with such good players as Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki's been sort of benefiting his game, and he's been able to use his vision to find players who are as intelligent as him in the offensive zone. Now, Kent Johnson, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's not playing with the Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki level of players. So he is that intelligent. Like, Kent Johnson's smarts are high end, but I think he'd be better off on the wing than Kirby Dach would be, because he doesn't have that high end pace, doesn't have that high end connectiveness within his game. Is mainly just the type of guy who you get him the puck in the offensive zone and he does something with it. So I would see Kent Johnson having a good career on the wing, a much better career than Kirby Dach would, for example, and there'd be less things taken off the table in terms of a skill set, with moving Kent Johnson to the wing versus Kirby Dach.
Yeah, for sure. And this is something that's kind of been annoying me for, most of the season, really, but especially in the past couple of weeks, is the Blue Jackets have kind of been dealing with a lot of injuries. And obviously they went out, they got Johnny Gaudreau, and we had that top line of Gaudreau, Jenner, Laine that was just killing people in the offseason. in the preseason, excuse me. Line is out with an injury at the minute. Kent Johnson has been taking a couple of spins on that top line.
Mhm.
And every time he does that, good things happen.
Yeah.
And then the next game rolls around and he's back on the second or the third line. And the coach, Brad Larson, is preaching patience with this kid. And on the one hand, I get that. But on the other hand, like, a lot of the things he's saying he wants to see from Kent Johnson are things that, in my opinion, he's doing already. Like, you've talked about his defensive game. You've talked about, his ability to see the puck. And would you be happy with him on that top line? Obviously playing, we've said he's not playing with top end line mates at the minute, but you watch him play with, especially like he's got some really good chemistry with Johnny Gaudreau, and it
Mhm.
does make me think, what happens if you put those two players together specifically, especially while Line is out, like that. I don't know. That feels like a really fun time to me personally.
Absolutely, and that's the thing with players like Johnny Gaudreau is, they're so smart, they make everyone around them smarter. They make their teammates understand the puck a lot better than they would with someone else. So the thing that Gaudreau does the most in possession of the puck that sort of leads to that is, first, his off-puck support is tremendous. He's almost always well positioned in the offensive zone to sort of create an outlet for his teammates if they're under two layers of pressure and need an outlet. He's there. The second thing he does is a lot of area passes. So he's going to play passes into space for his teammates, and sort of Jedi mind trick them into going to the right spots on the ice, right? So that's one thing that I really like about Gaudreau, and something that would benefit Ken Johnson a lot, because just by being on the same line as Johnny Gaudreau, you just absorb so much information, so much understanding of the game, and so much layered sort of processing. You start understanding, like, hey, if I hit this spot, Gaudreau's going to find me. Then you sort of apply that to when you have the puck and your teammates skating up the ice. You're like, oh, if I put that puck right there, he can skate into it. That kind of thing. I think development happens at every stage, and obviously an NHL team wants their first line to not be sort of developing. They want their first line to be something solid and concrete. But if the best spot for Ken Johnson's development is the first line, which I think it is, put him on the first line. There's not much, there shouldn't be much of an argument there.
Yeah, for sure. It's extremely frustrating that he's like, well, and this is a thing that I think is not necessarily a Brad Larson problem. I think this is a hockey problem in general,
Yeah.
is they have this idea that the kids have to earn their playing time,
Mhm.
or they have to do better to get to earn more playing time. And I'm like, but how do you expect them to do better when you're not putting them in a position to succeed?
Mhm.
Every time they put Ken Johnson out there on that top line, or there was a game, it was the game against the Florida Panthers, which the Blue Jackets won somehow, 5-3. And
Yeah.
Ken Johnson scored a power play goal in that game, and he also assisted on a different, I want to say, I think it was Boone Jenner's goal, and it was Jenner, Jenner, Gaudreau, and Johnson on the
Mhm.
ice as a top pairing. And every time those three guys are together, good things happen. And it's just so annoying for them to then turn around and be like, well, we don't want to ruin this kid's development by
Yeah.
playing him too much too soon, which I do understand. But at the same time, like, I think Ken Johnson, especially when you look at how much hockey he's played in the calendar year 2022, he went to World Juniors take 1. He did World Juniors take 2. He went to the Olympics
Mhm.
as a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
He went to World Championships. He made his NHL debut. He's played a lot of hockey this calendar year, and it's annoying. It's frustrating to see them kind of hold back because they want to see more than what he's giving, when honestly I think he's giving as much as he can give right now, and it's
Yeah, definitely.
frustrating.
And the thing with Gaudreau, the thing with Johnson is, I think that's part of the argument. I think the team is trying to load manage him, and not sort of throw him into the trenches this quick, especially on a team that's, like you said, has a lot of injuries, and are sort of in a situation right now where they're not winning that many games. They're kind of struggling to put up points. I don't think they want to bring him up as their top player in a losing environment, which is kind of understandable. You don't want to break a player's confidence, but watching Ken Johnson since his draft year, I don't think this is a player that lacks confidence in the slightest. I don't think that confidence is going anywhere, no matter what the score is. Um, he's comfortable trying things that no other player would try. He's behind the back passes, between the legs dekes, all that stuff. That was all available right there in Michigan, and that's the things you want to actually develop in his game and sort of bring out more regularly, because he's electrifying when he's at the top of his confidence. And I think playing with Gaudreau and Boone Jenner would be the best thing for his confidence, to get just free reins of this team, to just be trusted by his coaches and do, go out there, play the most minutes out of all forwards, all that stuff. If he can spend most of his time with Johnny Gaudreau, there's going to be a lot of good things that come out of Kent Johnson's game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you say, this kid's not lacking in confidence. He's
Not at
trying the Michigan in NHL games. I spoke to, when he was drafted, I spoke to another prospect guy, Sam McGilligan, who we've had on the show many times, really great guy. He always says that Kent Johnson is a main character player.
Yep.
You get some guys that are supporting characters. Kent Johnson is the main character of his own game, I think. And I think you're right in that I think there's very little that this team can do to crush his confidence by playing him 9 minutes a night or whatever it is that he was playing at the start of the season. And that's kind of the point where I'm like, if you're not going to play him, if he's not getting meaningful minutes in the NHL, send him to the AHL.
Absolutely.
I don't want to see Kent Johnson in the AHL. I think he's too good for that league, frankly. But I would love to see him play, 20, 25 minutes a night, put him on a line with Kirill Marchenko and probably Emil Bemstrom at this point, and just watch them ruin lives in the AHL,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all about what a player needs to learn at which level, basically. I've talked about this when talking about Yuri Slafkovsky. I think Slafkovsky is good enough for the NHL, but he's just good enough. He's not sort of in the position to dominate. And I think Ken Johnson is definitely good enough for the NHL. I think he definitely has the skill set. But we're talking about a player this young in his rookie year who, again, and if you're not going to find him the time in the NHL to play his game, to develop sort of the habits and sort of have enough reps, if he's spending 3, 4, 5 minutes between shifts on the bench, there's no way that's conductive to his development. So I would much rather see Ken Johnson play 20, 25 minutes in the AHL than 9, 10 minutes in the NHL. It's just better for his development. He's getting twice as many reps. But again, it's all about what a player needs to learn. I think in Slafkovsky's case, the whole, scanning, checking his surroundings, being more aware of his options, all that stuff is sort of what he needs to learn. Johnson doesn't scan as much, but it's not as egregious as Slafkovsky. So I'd be more comfortable leaving Johnson in the NHL than Slafkovsky, but he still has some tiny little details to learn, and I would see him sort of spend half the year in the AHL. I'd be comfortable with that. Just having him go down for conditioning stints, play on the top line, and sort of understand his line mates a bit better. And learn to play off of them a bit better, and sort of relinquish that main character energy for just a second, just in order to get the puck back in the offensive zone in a favorable position to sort of bring out that main character energy at the right moments in the offensive zone.
Yeah, for sure. And that's all I've got for you today. Tomorrow, we're going to do another weekend episode. We are going to, I'll probably finish off my conversation with Hadi. We're going to talk about Cole Sillinger, and we're going to talk about Jordan DeMay, who signed his entry-level contract literally yesterday. So we're going to have a little bit more prospect talk with Hadi tomorrow. Thank you for listening today. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is always free and available on any podcasting platform of choice, and also over on YouTube. You are never going to have to get behind a paywall for a Locked On product, and that is that's our promise to you. So thank you all for listening. I super appreciate it. Please hit the subscribe button on YouTube, hit the download button on Apple Podcasts or whatever it is you use to listen to. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the podcast at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.